Captain Lee Do-yoon stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the stars through the main screen. His weathered hands gripped the railing as he studied the tactical display. At 45 years old, he had seen many battles, but nothing like what was coming. The ship around him hummed with quiet power. The Indomitable looked different from other warships in the galaxy, where most ships had smooth, curved hulls covered in energy shield generators. This one had angular armor plating and strange weapon ports. It was built by humans for humans using only Earth technology. "Captain," called Commander Park Minji from her station, "Admiral Choi is sending another message." Do-hyun nodded. "Put him through." The screen flickered, showing Admiral Choi Hyunwoo in his office back on Earth. The older man's face was grim. "Do-hyun, the Galactic Council just voted. They're giving the Valkyrian Empire everything they asked for, including our colonies?" Do-hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. "All of them. New Seoul, Busan Station, even the mining worlds. The Council is too scared to fight." Choi's voice was bitter. "Every species except us voted to surrender." Do-hyun felt anger rise in his chest. Humanity had worked for 50 years to build those colonies. Millions of people called them home. "What are our orders, sir?" "Officially? Reconnaissance mission in the Kepler 442 system. Find out how big their fleet really is." The Admiral paused. "Unofficially? Show them that humans don't roll over and die just because someone threatens us." The connection ended. Do-hyun turned to face his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting. These 400 volunteers had signed up knowing they might not come home. They came from every human colony, every walk of life. But they all shared one thing. They refused to surrender their freedom without a fight. Chief Engineer Kim Jae-won spoke first. "Captain, the jump drive is ready. We can be in Kepler 442 in 6 hours." Kim was only 30, but he was the smartest person Do-hyun had ever met. The young engineer had designed most of the Indomitable systems himself. While other species used hyperspace lanes that took days to travel between systems, Kim had built something that could jump directly through space. "What about weapons?" asked Park Minji. Minji was the ship's tactical officer and Do-hyun's most trusted advisor. She thought differently than most military officers. While the galactic standard was to line up big ships and shoot energy beams at each other until someone's shields failed, Minji studied ancient Earth warfare. She knew about surprise attacks, hit-and-run tactics, and using the enemy's size against them. "Mass drivers are loaded and ready," reported Lieutenant Bae So-young from the communications station. All systems show green. So-young was the youngest officer on the bridge at 26, but she had already proven herself invaluable. She could hack into any alien computer system and had a gift for keeping the crew's spirits up even in the darkest times. Do-hyun walked to the center of the bridge. "Listen up, everyone. You all know what we're facing. The Valkyrian Empire has the biggest fleet in the galaxy. Their ships are 3 times the size of anything humans have ever built. They have weapons that can destroy planets and shields that can stop any energy weapon known to galactic science." The bridge was silent. "Everyone knew the odds. But they've never fought humans before," Do-hyun continued. "They don't know about our mass drivers that fire metal slugs at light speed. They don't know about our jump drives that can appear anywhere instantly. They don't know that humans never give up, no matter how bad things look." Kim Jae-won stood up from his engineering station. "Captain, if I may, I've been working on something. The mass drivers can do more than just fire single rounds. I think I can modify them to create a spread pattern. Instead of one big hit, we could fire a dozen smaller rounds that would be almost impossible to dodge." "Do it," Do-hyun said immediately. Park Minji was studying her tactical screens. "Sir, I've been analyzing Valkyrian fleet movements. They always travel in the same formations. Big ships in the center, smaller ones around the edges. They never split up, never change tactics. If we can get close enough, their own size will work against them." "What do you mean?" asked Do-hyun. "Their ships are so big they can't turn quickly. If we stay close and keep moving, they won't be able to target us without hitting their own vessels." So-young looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up reports from our colonies. The Valkyrian fleets are already moving. Intelligence says they have over 500 capital ships heading this way. 500 ships. The entire Earth defense fleet had only 50 vessels, and most of those were small patrol craft. The Indomitable was completely alone. "Sir," Kim said quietly, "there's something else about our ship the aliens don't know. When I built the jump drive, I made it different from anything in galactic technology. Most ships have to charge their drives for hours between jumps. Ours can jump again in minutes. How many jumps can we make? Asked Do-hyun. In theory? As many as we want, as long as the reactor holds out. But each jump puts stress on the ship. After 20 or 30 jumps, we might start having problems. Do-hyun nodded. An idea was forming in his mind. Minji, pull up everything we know about the Kepler 4042 system. The tactical display changed, showing a dead solar system with a thick asteroid belt. The main belt has over 10 million asteroids, Minji reported. Some as big as cities. It would be perfect for hiding. Or for fighting, Do-hyun said. Big ships hate asteroid fields. Too many things to hit, too little room to maneuver. So-young suddenly straightened at her station. Captain! Priority message from Earth Defense Command. The Valkyrian Emperor himself is coming. His flagship, the World Render, is 15 kilometers long. It carries enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. The bridge fell silent again. 15 kilometers. The Indomitable was barely 300 meters long. Do-hyun looked around at his crew. These people had volunteered to face impossible odds. They believed in something bigger than themselves. The right of humanity to exist free from tyranny. All hands, this is the captain, he said into the ship's communication system. We have our orders. We're going to show the galaxy that humans don't surrender. We're going to prove that courage and intelligence can beat any amount of firepower. Set course for Kepler 442. Maximum jump speed. As the Indomitable disappeared into the void, its crew prepared for a battle that would decide the fate of humanity. The Indomitable dropped out of jump space at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Do-hyun immediately ordered all sensors active. What they found made even his experienced crew gasp in shock. Mother of God, whispered Park Minji, staring at her tactical display. Captain, you need to see this. The main screen lit up with contacts. Hundreds of them. The Valkyrian Grand Armada stretched across space like a metal constellation. Massive dreadnoughts hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields. Smaller cruisers and destroyers filled the gaps between them. Fighter squadrons moved in precise patterns around the larger ships. Count them, So-young, Do-hyun ordered. Lieutenant Bay's fingers flew over her console. 512 capital ships, sir. 2,000 cruisers. Fighter count is over 10,000. Her voice was steady, but Do-hyun could hear the strain. Kim Jae-won looked up from his engineering station. Captain, their power signatures are incredible. Each of those dreadnoughts has more firepower than our entire home fleet. In the center of the Armada sat a ship so large it defied belief. The World Render was a floating city of weapons and armor. Its hull stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with energy cannons and missile tubes. Just looking at it, Do-hyun understood why every species in the galaxy feared the Valkyrian Empire. Sir, Minji said, studying her screens, they're not moving toward our colonies yet. They're holding position, probably waiting for the Emperor to arrive. Good. That gives us time to study them. Do-hyun moved to the tactical station. What do you see, Commander? Minji highlighted sections of the enemy fleet on her display. Classic Valkyrian doctrine, sir. Heavy ships in the center, lighter vessels on the flanks. They're arranged for maximum firepower concentration, but... She paused, thinking. But what? They're not expecting an attack. Look at their formation. No scouts at the edges, no patrol ships. They think they're completely safe out here. Kim suddenly spoke up. Captain, I'm reading their shield frequencies. They're all using the same type. Energy-based deflector screens. They're designed to stop plasma weapons and particle beams. What about kinetic weapons? Asked Do-hyun. Unknown, sir. According to galactic databases, no one has used kinetic weapons in over 300 years. The aliens think they're primitive and useless. Do-hyun smiled grimly. Show them how wrong they are. Arm the mass drivers. The Indomitable's weapons came online. Unlike the energy weapons used by every other species, these fired solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. The rounds could punch through most armor, and more importantly, they were almost impossible to detect until impact. Movement in the fleet, reported So-young. A patrol squadron is breaking off. 3 cruisers heading this way. Perfect, said Minji. Time to test our theories. The 3 Valkyrian cruisers approached in standard formation, a triangle with even spacing between ships. Each one was 4 times the size of the Indomitable, their hulls gleaming with active energy shields. Take us in, nice and quiet, ordered Do-hyun. So-young, full stealth mode. The Indomitable's hull seemed to shimmer and fade. The ship's stealth system didn't make them invisible, but it made them very hard to see on sensors. The Valkyrian cruisers continued their approach, completely unaware of the human ship hiding among the distant asteroids. "They're scanning for us," reported So-Young, "but their sensors are designed to detect energy signatures. Our cold hull and minimal power output makes us almost invisible to them." "Target the lead ship," Do-Hyun commanded. "Mass driver single round center mass." Kim made final adjustments to the weapon. "Ready, sir. Round is loaded and charged. Fire!" The mass driver spoke with a deep thrumming vibration that ran through the ship's hull. The metal projectile, accelerated to 15% of light speed, crossed the distance between ships in less than a second. The Valkyrian cruiser's energy shields flared bright blue as they tried to stop the incoming round. For a moment, the projectile seemed to slow. Then the kinetic energy overwhelmed the deflectors and the round punched straight through the ship's hull. The cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash. Atmosphere vented from dozens of holes as the ship's structure came apart. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as ammunition stores detonated. "Direct hit," called Minji. One cruiser destroyed. The other two Valkyrian ships immediately began evasive maneuvers, but they were too big and too slow. The Indomitable jumped to a new position in the blink of an eye, its drive system allowing impossible mobility. "Second target acquired," reported Kim. "Modified spread pattern ready. Fire!" This time 12 smaller rounds screamed toward the enemy cruiser. The ship's shields managed to stop 3 of them, but the other 9 found their mark. The cruiser broke apart like a toy, its hull unable to handle the multiple impacts. The third cruiser was trying to flee, broadcasting desperate messages to the main fleet. Do-Hyun couldn't allow word of their presence to reach the Armada. "Jump us ahead of them," he ordered. "Cut off their escape." The Indomitable appeared directly in front of the fleeing cruiser, so close that both crews could see each other through their bridge windows. The alien captain's face was a mask of shock and terror. "Point-blank range," said Kim. "1 round should do it. Make it count." The final shot tore through the cruiser's bridge and continued, straight through the entire length of the ship. The vessel died instantly, its crew never knowing what hit them. 3 targets eliminated, reported Minji. No survivors, no escape pods. Do-Hyun felt a moment of regret for the lives lost but pushed it aside. This was war, and the Valkyrians had started it by threatening human colonies. "Sir," said So-Young urgently, "the main fleet is starting to move. They know something happened to their patrol." The massive armada was slowly turning toward their position. Even at this distance, the sight of so many weapons trained in their direction was terrifying. "They'll search this entire system," observed Minji. "We can't hide from that many ships." "Then we don't hide," said Do-Hyun. "We use their size against them. Set course for the asteroid belt. Maximum speed." Kim looked worried. "Captain, jumping into an asteroid field is extremely dangerous. One miscalculation and we could materialize inside a rock. Can you do it?" The young engineer straightened. "Yes, sir. But it will require manual navigation for each jump. I'll have to plot every course myself, then do it, and Kim, make sure they follow us." As the Indomitable raced toward the dangerous asteroid belt, So-Young sent a broad-spectrum transmission toward the Valkyrian fleet. "This is the Earth vessel Indomitable. We are responsible for the destruction of your patrol squadron. If you want revenge, come and take it." The response was immediate. The entire Grand Armada began moving toward the asteroids, their formation shifting from defensive to attack mode. Thousands of ships powered their weapons and increased speed. Do-Hyun watched them come and smiled coldly. The aliens thought their superior numbers guaranteed victory. They were about to learn that in war sometimes the smaller, faster, smarter opponent had all the advantages. "All hands prepare for combat," he announced. "We're about to show the galaxy what humans can do when they're fighting for their freedom." The Indomitable disappeared into the asteroid belt with the entire Valkyrian Grand Armada in pursuit. The asteroid belt of Kepler 442 was a graveyard of dead worlds. Millions of rocks drifted in the darkness, some as small as houses, others as large as cities. The Indomitable slipped between them like a ghost, its sensors mapping every chunk of stone and metal. "Jump complete," reported Kim Jae-won, sweat beading on his forehead. "We're 3 kilometers inside the belt, hidden behind asteroid designation KP7751. Captain Do-Hyun studied the tactical display. The Valkyrian Grand Armada was approaching the belt's edge, but their massive ships were having trouble. The lead dreadnoughts had to slow down to avoid collisions, their formations becoming ragged as they tried to navigate between the larger asteroids. "They're struggling already," observed Commander Park Minji. "Those ships are too big for this environment. They need clear space to operate effectively." "Good," said Do-hyun. "That's exactly what we're counting on." "So-young, are you monitoring their communications?" Lieutenant Bay nodded, her fingers dancing over her console. "Yes, sir. Their fleet commander is Admiral Kethavol. He's ordering his ships to form hunting groups of 5 vessels each. They plan to sweep the belt section by section." "Predictable," said Minji. "Standard Valkyrian tactics. They'll move in straight lines following predetermined search patterns." Kim looked up from his engineering station. "Captain, I've been studying the asteroid composition. A lot of these rocks contain heavy metals and rare minerals. If we could somehow use that." "What are you thinking?" asked Do-hyun. "Well, sir, the mining companies left behind a lot of equipment when they abandoned this system. Drilling charges, explosive bolts, processing equipment. If we could get our hands on some of those charges." Do-hyun's eyes lit up. "Improvised weapons." "Exactly. We attach mining charges to asteroids, then nudge them toward enemy ships. The aliens would see a normal asteroid drifting their way until it explodes right next to their hull. Can you make it work? Give me 2 hours and a volunteer for EVA work." "You've got it." The first Valkyrian hunting group entered their section of the belt 30 minutes later. 5 cruisers moving in perfect formation, their sensors sweeping methodically through the rocks. They were following standard doctrine, which made them easy to predict. "Target the rear ship," ordered Do-hyun. "Hit and run. 1 shot, then we jump." The Indomitable emerged from behind a massive asteroid, fired a single mass driver round, and vanished again before the aliens could react. The targeted cruiser staggered under the impact, its hull cracking along multiple stress points. "Solid hit," reported Minji. "Significant damage, but not destroyed." "That's fine. We're not trying to destroy them all at once. We're trying to make them angry and scared." The Valkyrian response was immediate and predictable. All 5 ships opened fire on the asteroid the Indomitable had hidden behind, reducing the massive rock to dust and debris. Their energy weapons lit up the darkness like a deadly fireworks display. "They're wasting ammunition shooting at rocks," observed So-young with a grin. "Let them," said Do-hyun. "Every shot they fire at empty space is 1 less shot they can fire at us." Over the next hour, the Indomitable struck 12 times. They appeared without warning, fired precisely, and vanished before the enemy could respond. Each attack was different, sometimes from above, sometimes from below, once even from directly behind the Valkyrian formation. "Enemy casualties mounting," reported Minji. 4 cruisers heavily damaged, 2 destroyers destroyed. "But sir, they're starting to adapt. They're spacing their ships further apart and keeping more weapons powered." "Good. The further apart they are, the less they can support each other." Kim's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the mining charges are ready. Petty Officer Han and I have rigged 6 asteroids with explosive packages. Each one has enough power to crack a cruiser's hull." "Excellent work. Deploy them." The booby-trapped asteroids began drifting toward the Valkyrian search groups, looking like any other piece of space debris. The aliens' sensors showed normal rock composition. They had no way of detecting the hidden explosives. The first trap worked perfectly. A Valkyrian destroyer moved to push an asteroid out of its path, standard procedure for clearing navigation hazards. The moment the ship's hull touched the rock, the mining charges detonated. The explosion tore a massive hole in the destroyer's side, venting atmosphere and crew into space. "Direct hit," called Minji. 1 destroyer eliminated. 3 more traps found their targets over the next 20 minutes. The Valkyrian fleet was becoming increasingly frustrated and disorganized. Their neat formations were breaking down as captains tried to avoid the deadly asteroids while still searching for the elusive human ship. "Sir," said So-young urgently, "I'm picking up a priority transmission from the Valkyrian flagship. Emperor Thexmore himself is taking command of the hunt." The tactical display updated, showing a massive contact entering the asteroid belt. The world render was so large it had to carefully squeeze between the biggest asteroids, its 15-kilometer hull scraping against rocks the size of mountains. "Well," said Do-hyun quietly, "we got their attention." The Emperor's voice boomed across all frequencies, transmitted in the common galactic language. "Human vessel, you have embarrassed the Empire long enough. I offer you this choice. Surrender now and die quickly, or continue this pathetic resistance and watch your colonies burn. Do-hyun nodded to So-young, who opened a channel. Your Majesty, the captain said with mock politeness. This is Captain Lee Do-hyun of the Earth Defense Force. I have a counter-offer. Leave our space immediately, or we'll show you exactly why humans have a reputation for being stubborn. The Emperor's laughter was cold and harsh. Brave words from a dead man. Admiral Kethval, end this farce. Destroy every asteroid in this belt if you have to, but find that ship. The Valkyrian fleet began a systematic bombardment of the asteroid field. Energy beams lanced through space, shattering rocks and turning them to dust. The beautiful ancient asteroid belt began to disappear under the onslaught. They're destroying our cover, reported Kim. At this rate, we'll have nowhere to hide within an hour. Then we don't hide, said Do-hyun. Minji, what's the one thing we haven't tried yet? The tactical officer thought for a moment, then smiled. A direct assault on their flagship. Exactly. They think we're afraid of their big ships. Time to prove them wrong. Sir, said Kim worriedly, the World Render has more firepower than the rest of their fleet combined. Its shields could probably stop our mass drivers. Maybe, but I bet they've never been tested against multiple impacts in the same location. How many rounds do we have left? 47, sir. Load them all. We're going to show the Emperor what humans do when someone threatens their families. The Indomitable began moving deeper into the belt, toward the massive flagship. As they maneuvered between the remaining asteroids, Do-hyun addressed his crew. This is probably a one-way trip, he said honestly. That ship can probably destroy us with a single shot. But we're not here to survive. We're here to prove that humans don't surrender. Every shot we take at that monster is a message to our people back home. A message that says we never gave up. The crew worked with quiet determination, knowing they were about to face impossible odds. But they also knew they were making history. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would remember the day a single human ship challenged the most powerful vessel in known space. The World Render loomed ahead, its massive bulk blotting out the stars. The World Render filled the Indomitable's main screen like a metal mountain, 15 kilometers of weapons and armor, bristling with enough firepower to reduce a planet to ash. Its energy shields shimmered with power that could deflect the combined fire of an entire fleet. Range to target, 2,000 kilometers in closing, reported Park Minji, her voice steady despite the impossible odds they faced. Captain Do-hyun watched the massive flagship through the bridge windows. He could see smaller ships moving along its hull, cruisers that looked like toys next to the giant vessel. Weapon turrets the size of city blocks tracked slowly across space, searching for targets. All mass drivers loaded and ready, called Kim Jae-won from his engineering station. 47 rounds total. I've programmed them for maximum concentration. All shots will hit within a 50-meter area. Good work, Kim. So-young, any word from the colonies? Lieutenant Bae looked up from her communications console, her young face grim. Sir, I'm monitoring emergency channels from New Seoul and Busan Station. Valkyrian advance fleets are already approaching our outer systems. They're demanding surrender. Do-hyun felt anger burn in his chest. While they fought here, the Empire was already moving to enslave human worlds. Millions of people were counting on them to somehow stop this massive armada. Captain, said Minji quietly, we need to talk about our tactical situation. Do-hyun moved to her station. The tactical display showed the brutal reality of their position. The World Render was surrounded by over 100 escort ships. Even if they somehow damaged the flagship, the escorts would tear them apart in seconds. We can't win a straight fight, Minji continued, but maybe we don't need to. Look at their formation. She highlighted the escort ships on her display. They're positioned to protect the flagship from long-range attacks. But if we get in close, really close, they won't be able to fire without hitting their own command ship. How close? Asked Do-hyun. Right against the hull. We use the World Render's own size as our shield. Kim overheard and looked worried. Sir, flying that close to such a massive ship is incredibly dangerous. Their gravity field alone could crush our hull. And if they decide to ram us, then we better make our shots count before that happens, said Do-hyun grimly. The Emperor's voice suddenly boomed across all channels again. Human ship, you continue to flee like a coward. Face me in honorable combat, or I will assume you have surrendered. Do-hyun signaled So-young to open a channel. Your Majesty, you want honorable combat? You've got it, but let's make it interesting. If we damage your flagship, you withdraw your fleets from human space. If you destroy us, you get your colonies. The Emperor's laughter echoed through space. Agreed, human. But when you fail, I will make sure your people remember how their champions died. Sir, whispered Minji. What are you doing? Buying us time and confusion, Do-hyun replied quietly. The Emperor's pride won't let him refuse a direct challenge. He'll order his escorts to stand down and let us approach. Sure enough, the Valkyrian formation began to change. The escort ships pulled back, creating a clear corridor to the flagship. The Emperor wanted a dramatic victory, a public execution that would break human morale. He's making the same mistake every tyrant makes, observed Do-hyun. He thinks this is about him. He doesn't understand that we're fighting for something bigger than one man's ego. The Indomitable accelerated toward the world render. As they closed the distance, the flagship's true size became overwhelming. Gun turrets larger than their entire ship tracked their approach. Shield generators the size of office buildings hummed with lethal energy. Incoming transmission, reported So-young. It's from the flagship's bridge. The main screen split, showing Emperor Thexmore in his command center. The Valkyrian ruler was massive even by his species standards, his scarred face dominated by cold, calculating eyes. Behind him, hundreds of officers worked at control stations. So, the Emperor said, studying Do-hyun with obvious amusement. This is humanity's great champion. You look smaller than I expected. Size isn't everything, Your Majesty, replied Do-hyun calmly. Sometimes the smallest opponent is the most dangerous. Brave words. But words will not save your species from the fate that awaits them. As they talked, Kim was working frantically at his station. He had discovered something important about the world render's shields. They were designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic projectiles. But the flagship's shields were also incredibly powerful. It would take multiple hits in exactly the same spot to break through. Captain, Kim said quietly, I think I can do it. But I need you to hold us steady for at least 30 seconds. No evasive maneuvers, no course changes. Just straight and level flight. 30 seconds might as well be 30 years against a ship with that much firepower. But Do-hyun nodded. You'll have your 30 seconds. The Indomitable was now less than 500 kilometers from the world render. At this range, the flagship's weapons could vaporize them instantly. But the Emperor was enjoying his moment of triumph too much to end it quickly. Your ship is impressive for such a primitive species, Thexmore said conversationally. I may keep it as a trophy after I have your crew executed. You'll have to catch us first, replied Do-hyun. That was Kim's signal. The young engineer began firing the mass drivers in rapid sequence. The first round struck the world render's shields and was deflected, its energy scattered harmlessly. The second round hit the same spot and penetrated slightly deeper. The third round went deeper still. By the 10th shot, cracks were appearing in the energy barrier. By the 20th, the shield was flickering dangerously. The Emperor's expression changed from amusement to alarm as he realized what was happening. All weapons, fire! He roared. The world render's massive gun swiveled toward the Indomitable, but the human ship was too close. The flagship's own bulk blocked most of its weapons from targeting them. Only a few turrets could angle low enough to shoot at such close range. Energy beams lanced past the Indomitable's hull, missing by meters. The ship shook under the thermal stress of near misses, but Kim kept firing. Round after round slammed into the same spot on the flagship's shields. Shields failing, called Minji, watching the energy readings fluctuate wildly. Almost through, reported Kim, sweat pouring down his face as he manually aimed each shot. A lucky shot from one of the world render's turrets clipped the Indomitable's stern, sending the ship tumbling. Sparks flew from damaged systems as the crew fought to regain control. Hull breach in Section 7, called a damage control officer. Emergency power to shields, ordered Do-hyun. Kim fired the last mass driver round just as the world render's shields collapsed entirely. The metal projectile punched through the flagship's armor and disappeared into its massive hull. For a moment, nothing happened. Then explosions began rippling along the world render's length as the kinetic round tore through internal systems. Secondary blasts erupted from weapon magazines and fuel tanks. Direct hit, shouted Minji. We've breached their primary hull. But their victory was short-lived. The escort ships were moving in, no longer held back by the Emperor's pride. Dozens of energy beams converged on the Indomitable from all directions. Evasive maneuvers, ordered Do-hyun. The ship jinked and rolled, but there were too many enemies. A plasma beam struck their port side, punching through armor and causing massive internal damage. Another hit destroyed their main sensor array. Jump drive is damaged, reported Kim. I can't get us out of here. The Indomitable was trapped, surrounded by enemies and too damaged to escape. Through the smoke and sparks on the bridge, Do-hyun watched his crew continue to fight with quiet courage. They had done the impossible. They had damaged the most powerful ship in the galaxy. But it might not be enough. Sir, said So-young suddenly, I'm receiving transmissions from outside the system. Multiple human ships are jumping in. The tactical display updated, showing new contacts appearing throughout the system. Ships from every human colony, military and civilian vessels alike, were arriving to join the fight. The whole galaxy is watching, So-young continued with growing excitement. Our battle is being broadcast on every channel. Other species are seeing what humans can do when we fight for our freedom. Do-hyun smiled grimly. Win or lose, they had already achieved something important. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would never surrender, no matter how desperate the odds. The spirit of resistance was spreading, and that was worth any sacrifice. The bridge of the Indomitable was filled with smoke and sparks. Half the control stations were dead, and emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow. Captain Do-hyun pulled himself up from where the last hit had thrown him, blood running from a cut on his forehead. Damage report, he called out. Hull breaches on 3 decks, came the reply from damage control. Life support is failing in sections 4 through 7. We've lost 60% of our crew. 60%. 140 people dead, including some of Do-hyun's closest friends. But the remaining crew kept working, their faces grim with determination. Commander Park Min-ji was bent over her tactical station, her left arm hanging useless at her side. Sir, the reinforcements are engaging the outer edge of their fleet, but there are still over 400 enemy ships between us and safety. On the main screen, the world render was listing heavily to one side. Fires burned along its massive hull where their attack had penetrated, but the flagship was far from destroyed. It still had enough firepower to annihilate every human ship in the system. Chief Engineer Kim Jae-won looked up from his station, his face pale. Captain, I've been studying the damage to the world render. Our attack hit something important. Their main reactor is becoming unstable. How unstable? Asked Do-hyun. If it goes critical, the explosion will be like a small star going nova. Everything within 5,000 kilometers will be vaporized. Lieutenant Bae So-young's voice was strained as she monitored communications. Sir, Emperor Thexmore is ordering his fleet to retreat. They're pulling back from the unstable reactor. Do-hyun studied the tactical display. The Valkyrian ships were indeed moving away from their flagship, but they were forming a new battle line. They would let the world render explode, then continue their attack on the human colonies. We can't let them escape, said Do-hyun quietly. If that fleet reaches our world, Sir, interrupted Kim, I have an idea. It's insane, but it might work. I'm listening. Our jump drive is damaged but not destroyed. I can't make a normal jump, but I might be able to create a localized space-time distortion. If I overload the drive at exactly the right moment, what would that do? It would create a gravity well that would pull everything nearby toward a single point. The world render's explosion would be focused and directed instead of spreading out in all directions. Min-ji understood immediately. You want to use our ship as a gravity lens. Focus the flagship's explosion toward the rest of their fleet. Exactly. But the ship generating the distortion would be at the center of the explosion. There would be no survivors. The bridge fell silent. They were talking about suicide, deliberately sacrificing themselves to destroy the enemy fleet. But it was their only chance to save the human colonies. How many enemy ships would we destroy? Asked Do-hyun. Kim checked his calculations. At least half their fleet, maybe more, depending on how close they are when the reactor goes critical. That would break their military power, said Min-ji thoughtfully. Without the Grand Armada, the Empire couldn't threaten anyone for decades. Do-hyun looked around at his remaining crew. These brave men and women had already given everything for their people. Now he was asking them to give their lives as well. All hands, this is the captain, he announced over the ship's communication system. I'm not going to lie to you about our situation. We're trapped, outnumbered, and dying. Our reinforcements are too few and too far away to save us. He paused, looking at each face on the bridge. But we have one last chance to strike a blow for freedom. We can destroy most of the enemy fleet, but it will cost us our lives. I'm asking for volunteers only. Anyone who wants to try to escape in the life pods has my permission. The response was immediate. Sir, came a voice over the intercom. This is Petty Officer Song in Engineering. My whole section volunteers. Weapons section volunteers, called another voice. Medical bay volunteers. One by one, every surviving member of the crew reported in. Not a single person chose to abandon ship. They would see this through to the end, together. Do-hyun felt tears in his eyes. Thank you, he said simply. All of you. Kim, begin the overload sequence. Aye, sir. Overload in 60 seconds, So-young opened a channel to the human reinforcement fleet. This is the Indomitable to all human vessels. We are beginning our final attack. Tell our families we did our duty. The response came from Admiral Choi himself, his voice heavy with emotion. Indomitable, you have done more than your duty. You have shown the galaxy what humanity stands for. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. 30 seconds to overload, reported Kim. On the tactical display, the World Renders reactor was glowing white-hot. The massive ship was starting to come apart as internal explosions tore through its hull, but it was still functional enough to destroy the human colonies if its fleet escaped. Sir, said Minji quietly, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine. Commander, 10 seconds, called Kim. Do-hyun took one last look around the bridge. These people had faced impossible odds without flinching. They had proven that courage and determination could overcome any enemy. For humanity, he said. For humanity, the crew responded. The jump drive overloaded in a brilliant flash of light. Space-time twisted around the Indomitable, creating a gravity well that pulled everything toward a single point. The World Renders reactor finally went critical, releasing the energy of a small star. But instead of spreading out harmlessly, the explosion was focused by the gravity distortion. A lance of pure destruction tore through the Valkyrian fleet like a sword of light. Ship after ship vanished in the incredible heat and radiation. When the light faded, over half the Grand Armada was gone. The survivors fled in terror, their military power broken. The Valkyrian Empire's threat to humanity was ended. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the debris field where the Indomitable had made its final stand. Around him, the remaining human ships maintained a respectful silence. Sir, reported his communications officer, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 Valkyrian worlds. The Empire is collapsing without their fleet. What about our casualties? 400 souls aboard the Indomitable. All lost, Choi nodded sadly. Signal all ships. We return to Earth immediately. Those people's families deserve to know how bravely their loved ones died. 3 months later, Captain Lee Do-hyun and the crew of the Indomitable were honored with humanity's highest medal for valor. A monument was built on Earth listing every name, with an inscription that read, "They proved that the human spirit cannot be conquered." Commander Park Min-ji, promoted posthumously to captain, became the subject of tactical studies in military academies across the galaxy. Her innovative strategies were credited with revolutionizing space warfare. Chief Engineer Kim Jae-won's designs became the foundation for a new generation of human warships. His sacrifice had given humanity the technological edge it needed to defend itself. Lieutenant Bae So-young was remembered for her courage in maintaining communications during the darkest moments of the battle. Her final transmission to the human fleet became a rallying cry for freedom across the galaxy. The Indomitable itself was rebuilt as a memorial ship, its corridors filled with exhibits honoring those who died. School children from across human space came to learn about the day a single ship challenged an empire and won. But perhaps the most important legacy was the message the battle sent to every species in the galaxy. Humanity would not be conquered, would not surrender, and would never stop fighting for what was right. The Valkyrian Empire fell within a year, its subject worlds rising in rebellion inspired by humanity's example. Other tyrannical governments found their own populations demanding freedom. The galaxy had learned that courage was contagious, and that sometimes the smallest voice could speak the loudest truth. And in the cold depths of space, where the Indomitable made its final stand, a new star burned brightly, a reminder that some sacrifices create light that shines forever.